Hello everyone, welcome to this new Grasshopper tutorial series. This time we will be modeling the World One, as you can see on my screen. The World One is currently under construction. It's a high-rise residential tower, and I've actually come across this tower when I was doing a competition. It's a competition that where several universities participate in. It's called the Vertical Cities Asia. And during that time, I was doing studies on all the high rises in Mumbai because the competition site was in Mumbai. And I was doing studies of a lot of high rises, basically all the ones that I can find. And the World One was the tallest, if I remember correctly, and it just shadows all the other towers. And it just fascinates me it how elegant it actually looks. The World One is actually this as part of a master plan of I think like three other towers. So let me quickly pull up a Google search. So if you type in World One, probably this is the exact same page you will see. And let's open up a wiki page. As you can see, the World One is actually designed by IMPay. That's formerly known. I think they're now called here Paycop Frieden Partners. As I said, it's currently construction and it's part of a bigger plan. There are two sister towers next to it. These are the names, Road View and Road Crest. They are actually a bit lower, obviously. And if you look at the picture here, well, let me just show you this one. The sister towers are basically, I think, either this block of the Road 1 and the other one is just like two blocks. So they're more like steps in that sense. So here's what we're gonna do. First, we're gonna gather some information that we'll need. The first will be the height, obviously. So we have the height here already. The top height 442, spanning over 117 floors. So with that information, we can already start designing a big chunk of the tower already. But there's another parameter that we actually need. So if you open up the skyscraper center, which gives you a little bit more information, if not the same information as Wikipedia, but with this page, you have a bit more info in terms of images, and particularly this image here. What this shows you is the division of floors. So just by eyeballing it, it almost looks like it's 1/3 for each block. So whether you want to really accurately model this, that's up to you. I've done some small measurements, so we can actually work with that, and I will tell you that when we get started on the tutorial. And another information we need is actually the floor plan. If you want, you can also use one of these images for reference purposes. So if you go back to Google search and you just go to images, these should be a lot of images that can help you get a sense of what the tower looks like, how the detailing is, etc., etc. So it's quite helpful to have these. Oh, this is a very nice render. Um, but what we're mainly interested in is actually the plan view. So if you type in World One plan, you should have all the information you need. The only thing you might be missing is the dimension. So I think if you, for example, if you click on this one or even this one, you have a nice plan. So what you can do, oh, this one is even animated. So what you can do is you capture one of these images, you save it, and you can import that back into Rhino as a picture frame. So they can use it as an underlay to design the tower. But if you don't want to do that, it's okay. I will provide you with a set of parameters that we can use with, and then afterwards you can adjust them to however you like. So with that said, let's jump into Rhino and Grasshopper and get started. Okay, now we're in Grasshopper. So the first thing we'll do is let's create a panel with all the information that we have thus far. So what we have is the maximum height, so we can just call it max height, and that was about 342 meters. The amount of floors was 117, and I guess that's what we have for now. Let's just rename this quickly, World One. Okay. Like I said, I've provided you, if you look back to the plan view, I provided you with a set of parameters that you can use, but you can also import this and make it yourselves. For copyright reason, I don't think I'm allowed to do that, but if you type in picture, you can actually import a PNG or JPEG into your Rhino view, and you can use that as measurement to see what the measurements are. But I've done that for you. So what I've found, so let's take one that's not moving. Let's take this one instead. So what I found out is this part here, like all these, they have a radius of about 15 meters, I guess, if I remember correctly. And these, I haven't measured in that way because I basically took the tangency from these two curves and created that one instead. So these are depending on this 15. So we're going to start from that. The other parameter that I use is actually, if you take a point from here, the middle point, let's take a different color. No, let's take a way different color. Let's take these 2 points. When you connect these points in a circle, okay, and that will give you a radius of 25 meters. So we have 2 radii that we can use in order to construct the rest of the tower. So that's what we're going to do. Let's put that back into our parameter list. So let's call the blue radius the main radius, and the other one wings. Since it's at the end, you can call it secondary. Doesn't really matter, it's just a number. I mean, it's just a name. You can always change that whenever you want and however you want. The good thing about it is once we've done the parametric modeling of this, you can actually change this to a bizarre number. I believe you've also seen that in the intro video where, or in the teaser actually, where at the end I show you a 9 towers, and those are basically came from adjusting one of these values or all these values. Okay, now that we have this, let's create a few setting out parameters for us. One obviously is the main radius, so what I'm going to do is create a slider that is 10 to, I don't know, 100. Oh, that's 10 to 1. 10 to 100, and then we're going to call this main radius, and we're going to set this to 25. We're going to copy this. We're going to call this one the wing radius. We're going to set this to 15. Okay. The height. We can actually do the floor. Well, the thing about these two is, with these two, what you can get is the height per floor. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's do 442. And the other one is the floor. The reason behind this is we actually want to use a floor, the height of per floor. That way we can adjust it more easily. Then you can also see how high your floors are, and then you can adjust amount of floors accordingly. This is basically for us to just get an initial value. You can always change this at a later state. So let's say x divided by y. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, we're gonna call this floor height. I don't really want to work with that kind of value, so what I'm going to do is I am going to round this number by 2 decimals after the comma. So there we go. Let's create a few number sliders here. If you haven't followed my previous tutorial, what I usually do is I will create these number or data components so that I can easily drag them out, and then I can hide the wire display in order to make the code clean. And if you have Rhino 6, this is actually a new value. If you drag, you will see a normal black arrow, but if you press Alt once, it will turn red. And what it will do is it will take the name of the previous component and try to give it to the next. So you can see this turns into wing. So if I were to copy this, it will be main, but if I do Alt once, it will turn into the name that it comes from this. So that's very handy if you have Rhino 6. And we're actually going to do the same. Well, not this one. We're going to do the same for this one. Floor height. Actually, let's call it floor height. And let's do that again. Okay. Let's see. What can we do next? I think we can start with this already. So let's start. First, we are going to create. We're going to start from a point. So we're going to do point construct, and then actually I need this. So I'm going to copy that over. I use this just to copy. That's what I use it for, because these are going to be from there. So okay, I have a point. What I want to do is it has three wings. So what I'm going to do is use let's do a SDL command from this point with a length that's equal to the radius. Actually, let's do a circle instead, so that we can select those 3 points on the circle. We can actually rotate our tower if we wanted to later on. Don't think we will be, but we'll see. So this is that's our circle. Then what we want is let's divide our circle into 3, so that we have 3 points. I don't think we need this then. Yeah, okay. So I really don't think we need those. So this one is fine. And what we want to do now is actually within these 3 circles, we want to create those 3 wings, basically these. So that's what we're gonna do. We need this one now. Oh, come here, this one. And these are the points. Okay. So now that we have these circles, we need to actually cut them in half, because if you look at this closely and if you imported this is actually half a circle. This edge right here is actually half a circle, so that's why we need to cut those. And let's see here, how can we do this? Well, we can actually use shatter for that, and then we parameterize it. But what parameter do we use? So let's check on how our curve is actually point on curve with this component. This one, we can actually check how the circle is actually. So the seam is actually on the right side, and it will go counterclockwise to the other way. But what we want to do is actually from this side on, we want the seam to be on that where emanating from the center to this center. That's what we want, where it crosses the circle. That's where we want the seam to be, and that gives us a more predictable parameters that we can use to cut these curves. Actually, I'm going to press F7 to get rid of that grid. Let me turn back on my circle. Okay, so one way we can do that is actually use well, might have to bring back our line actually. I'm not sure if my circle can serve. Oh, it does. How are we gonna? This is the direction, obviously. That's the tangents to these circles. because if you do a vector display, you can actually, if you don't know what the vector is, you can actually do a vector display, and then you will see. Actually, you might have it wrong, but it does show the correct curve. Interesting. Let's not rely on this one. Let's do a vector 2-point instead, because I really don't want to rely on that. Let's see the first point. Does it take that as a point? I wonder. Let's do a vector display. I mean, if it does, let's save us a few components, then I don't have to come here and deconstruct the circle in order to get the center point, or do an area and get the center point. So let's have a look. And it does. It does. Well, okay. Yeah, so that's our direction. And hey, we have our length too, which of course this should be 25. So that's where we have our connecting lines. So that helps. And what we actually want to do here is move the seam of our circles. That's the end goal, so that we can shatter them accordingly. But in this one, we also need a parameter, which, how can we get? Well, we can get that with a intersect. You should just get it from this one. So if you get curve to curve intersect, and we intersect, let's say, our mini circle, or rather the other way around, maybe, because of how our code is now organized, with this. And what we get here is actually a intersection on that point, and we can also get on which parameter it intersects. Since the circle is connected to B, that will be the parameter on B, which is this one. And we get a lot of numbers that we don't really like. So what we're going to do is actually, I'm going to reparameterize. Can I reparameterize this? Oh, I cannot reparameterize that. But I can reparameterize this one. Okay. That's fine. Actually, I don't even need to, because, well, I'm not doing anything with it, with the parameterized or unreparameterized values. So what I've done here is the tree branch is actually graphed. So what I'm going to have to do is graph this one in order for the data to match. Because if I hadn't grabbed this one, what it would do is it would multiply the this one single list with 3 items with each of these items, and that would give me, I think, 9 items in the end, which I don't expect. That's not what I want. So that's why I need to graph that. And now, if you were to turn on point on curve and you evaluate these curves, you will see that 0 begins on the green dot. So let's me disable all that. And then it will move, well, it seems that they all move to, oh wait, all of them move counterclockwise. Okay, that's fine. So that's what we have that. And what I want to achieve with this is so that we can easily shatter our curves. Since we know the beginning is that point here, and we have a shatter, well, what does that mean? Well, if our point is here, right, and if we were to reparameterize the curve, meaning from 0 to 1, what we know is we want to get this half of the circle. What we have to do is basically, I want you to shatter minus, or actually it doesn't go minus, I think. Parameters 0 to 1. So what we have to do is we're going to say, I want you to shatter at 25, 0.25, not just 25. Another way, it's, well, 0 to 75. This way, we'll always shadow the half. So let's try that. And I'm going to do is actually make a panel. Since I know this will not be changed. If you want to change it, then you're actually designing a whole different tower. So keep that in mind. So we have this. This one goes in here. Remember to reparameterize it because we need those to be reparameterized. And we just plug that in. And now if I were to say list item, let's list one of the items. There we go. We've got it. So that's one way to get that part of the circle in. And in the next part, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create this intersecting line here. That's the other curve. But before we do that, if you look closely to one of these pictures, you will see that where it sort of stops, which I think is, let's pick another color that's better. So what we've had is right now is this one. But this small section here, actually, wait, let me draw a different color. What you notice is there is a small bit section there that is straight. So we will have to incorporate that, and the way you can do that is simply using a extend curve command component. Connect that here. Make sure your T is set to line, otherwise you won't get smooth straight lines. And the LO and the L1 is basically how much you want to extend it. If you put negative, it will subtract. But I don't think we want that. You can do that. You might get interesting form for your towers, but who knows? Anyway, so let's do that. Actually, I don't want to create a panel. We might have to bring that in here and then call it a what do we call it? Let's copy that one. Let's just copy this and I'll put this one here. We're gonna call this straight section. That makes more sense. Straight section. Then we're gonna alt that, and then we can copy this one here. So we're gonna use that one instead. Straight section at 25. Oh, that's gonna be a lot. Let's see what happens. Yeah, you definitely don't want a straight section of 25. Let's start with 0.1. Oh, I need to enable that number. 1 decimal. 0.1. Maximum 10 perhaps. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Now let's leave it at the middle. Let's leave it at 5. And now what we can do is we might want to merge these two together. I think that will be something we need, but we'll see what happens if we just continue on. So now we're ready to make the inner arcs. Before we continue, actually there's something else I would like to do. We're now focusing on creating a setting out plan for the footprint of the tower, meaning the base of the tower, the thickest part. If I pull up this image, we're basically trying to make a floor plan that's that corresponds to this section of the tower. But what we'd like to do also is to make a section for the next block and the last block at the same time. This one will probably look like this, and this one is gonna be something like that, like a boomerang. And then the last part obviously is going to be something like that. Wow, that's drawn very poorly. My apologies. But you get the idea. Actually, why am I doing this when I can just show you this? If I pull up this, so we're trying to make this footprint, right? But what we want to do is ultimately, as it go up, we want to have a footprint for also this one and that one at the same time. And we want to build it here already, so that in the end we can choose which one we want. So what we want to do is let's disable that. We can repeat the data, okay, and we want to repeat it 3 times because we have 3 blocks. So we can just call this blocks. Anything that makes sense to you. I'm putting in a panel because I'm not sure if I would like to put it as a parameter that we would love to change. I mean, obviously we want to, that would be nice, but that has to tie back to, I think, this number. Actually, that's where the 3 comes in. I think I should put it back here. Let's see what happens if I put in a 5. Aha! Hey, we can maybe create an advanced World One generator. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We can explore that idea later down the road once we completed most of the parametric um, workflow. So what we've done here, we duplicated the data that comes from here 3 times. As you can see here, we have now 9 data in, and then we started with 3. What I want to do now is, now these data are stacked on top of each other, which can be hard to see what we're doing and which one we're working on. What I suggest we can do is to separate them with a move. I'm going to move it in the, not this one, I'm going to move it in the X axis, which is this one, which goes to the right. So we're going to do that. We don't need this one for now. I'm just going to create by hand a few values that will allow them to move. So I'm going to do this multi-data, and I want to move everything. So there we have our move. The next thing is I want to test. Preferably, what I like to do is I want to have this one as a tree, this one as a tree, and this one as a tree. Actually, I should start from 0, but you get the idea. In that sense, I can say, okay, now I'm working on the first block, and then the second, and then the third. That makes it a lot easier to select. So I'm gonna test that with a tree branch select. I'm gonna modify that. This is not what I want. I don't want the first branch. I'm selecting the first branch right now. I don't want the first branch to be like this. I should want them to be just these. So what I'm going to do now is actually flip the matrix, meaning I turn the rows into columns and columns into rows. If that's not obvious enough, the icon of the flip matrix should give you an idea. And watch what happens once I've plugged this into my tree branch select. There we go. I've selected only the first one, the first group. And if I go up, it selects the next group. So that's exactly what we want. But now, the problem that we have is, as it go up, one of these semicircles, one of the half circles is eliminated in order to create the floor plan for that specific level. So in this way, this one should be like that. Okay, let me just draw this in here instead. So this one's going to be like that, and this one is something like that. So we need to eliminate this one, this one, this one. So as we go up, we eliminate one more item, starting from 0. So with that logic in mind, we can actually build a culling pattern in it. We can use the culling, which one? We can actually use culling index, and we can plug that in here already. So we don't want to wrap, it doesn't matter, I think. It doesn't really matter. So what we want to do is we want to generate a pattern that we can feed into our index here in order to call. And one way to do that is to actually create a series. It can start from 0. Let me just create this one. It can start from 0 plus 1 because that's fine. But in terms of how many items we want, well, that happens to be at number 3, all the way there. See? So this is actually sort of like what we want. We want the first one to be called 0, the second one to be 1, and then the third to be 2. Because we want 2 of these to be deleted. What you can do with this information is you can actually create another series, and you can say in this series I want this number of items per series. And then actually with this information you're already set. Watch what happens if I plug this into here. Now you see how it actually deletes 1 every time it goes up. So that's actually our solution to this. And now in the end we can just create, we can have them all extend, which is this component right here, which is the amount of extension we created here. So now that we set up we are building, we're not set up yet, but we're building the floor plan for all 3 blocks at the same time. Okay, let's continue. For this one, it might be different, but we'll see what happens. Okay, let's continue. After this part, actually, I think we can. What's this? Oh, so after this part, what we can do, we need to create that sort of tangent circle. I think they're too far apart right now. This might be 120. Actually, you know what? Let's create a range instead. A range with 3 numbers. No, actually, let's do this. Let's do a series. A series with 3 numbers. And then we can specify the stepping size, which is the size of how far each items are from each other. So I actually do this. There we go. This is a bit closer, a bit more manageable. So that's nicer. Let me see. Oh, those are the circles. Okay. Okay. Now that we have this in place, let's do. How are we going to create that? We can actually create. What I want is an arc. Which arc? This arc needs 3 points. This arc needs, what's this one? A point, a base plane, radius. We don't know what the radius is, but this one seems okay. This one needs a start point, an end point, and a direction. I think all 3 can get from this one, but what we need to do first is we need to start and the end point. And the way we're going to do this, or the way we want it to be done, is we want this start point and this is the end point. And the direction can be either this one or this one. It doesn't really matter. But a problem here is how do we select the point that we can use? So that's a bit troublesome, I guess. Here's what we can do. Let's see. Let's check out the points. Let's do point list. Okay, so 0 starts there. What I need to actually do is connect. If I do this, what do I get? Yeah, that's. I mean, the order of these points are all over the place. I don't really like this, actually. Okay. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. You know what I can do? I can actually sort these points. Yes, I can sort these points. What am I gonna use this one? Should I use this one? Doesn't matter if I use this one. That's fine. Let's just merge this instead. We can use this one. I just need all the collection of points like this. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna sort them, and I'm gonna sort them according to our initial circle. Oh, but these are all different now, so that's gonna be troublesome. Okay, let's see how we're gonna tackle this. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use the endpoints of each. Okay, actually, let's turn off this one. We're gonna use the endpoint of each of these semi-half circle and connect it to the start point of the other half of its neighbor. I'm pretty sure that these two will be okay because there's only 2 pair. The problem arises when you have 3 or more, because well, which end are you gonna connect? You have 2 choices instead of 1. So we actually, let's move this up. Let's move this all the way there. We not gonna use that one, even though this one has an endpoint. We can actually use this one, can we? No, I'm not gonna use this one. I would like to use the evaluate command. Let's actually put a curve in between. The reason why I want to use the evaluate command is because I have a bit more flexibility, and I also have a tangent factor which I do need for the direction of our arc, and we can actually control which point we want, but usually we want um, the 0 to 1 if we parameterize it, which we should. So if I were to set in 0 here, this would give me the start point, and if I put a 1 here, this would give me an endpoint. Now it's not as easy as just plugging these in and then choose one of the tangent vector, which you can try. The reason the results will be actually disappointing, as you will see now. This is also what I expected, because we've not changed a lot. We basically say, hey, the endpoint of the circle itself is going to connect to the other endpoint of the same circle. Well, this is what you will get. And we're using one of the tangent vector, which doesn't really matter. Oh, it does matter which one you use, because this one goes the other way. That's true, because this one goes this way, and we actually needed this last one, which goes outside, like pushes away from the semicircle that we started with. Now, the next step we're going to do is actually we want to shift one of these points, because if I were to put this in a point list, you will see that let me focus on this one. Actually, this one, the rest will be able to fix. That's I don't worry about those. So what you see here is this is the 0 point, this is 1, and this is 2, right? Okay. And the same actually for the other one. So 0 will always connect to 0. It will the purple one will connect to the black one. So you would like to use actually a shift list. Watch what happens if I do it in this one. Like I said, the other two, they'll be, oh, I'll move my point. The other two will be fine because there's not much choice the points can go. But the problem arises when you have 3 or more circles. As you can see, this is not what we want at all. Now you may want to play with the shift list until you get it right, which you can with a number 2, because that's the last point that it will connect to. Now, one easy way to fix this and have it independent of how many circles we have, you can just say, hey, if 2 is always the right one, then isn't it just the number of circles you have minus 1? Yes, that's one way to fix this. That's fine. But I would like to explain why this is happening first, so that you can find a better fix for it. And more importantly, you know what's going on. Now, if I do let's bring out our shift list again. So 0 means no shift, right? So 0 will connect to 0. Now, if I shift, watch what happens to the 0. Now, let's put this on here. So you can see the 0, which was here where, let me trick a blue color. Can I do that? Okay. This was the original 0, okay? And watch what happens when I press 1 shift. It moves counterclockwise to that one. But what we actually want is we want the 0 to be here. So what that means is we need to move it clockwise. Now, if positive numbers goes counterclockwise, well, a negative number will go the other way. So if I were to put in minus 1 here, the whole script will fix itself. And that's the same logic behind when I said you can keep on shifting this until you find it right. And we've seen that the right number of shift is the last number, is the amount of curve you have minus 1, which is 2. You can do that if you feel that's comfortable. You can actually do a list item from this one, or from where you have a 3, or from this one. And then you do minus 1, and then you plug into the S, which will work. But by that logic, it means that if I have to go counterclockwise, the number of curves that we have minus 1, why can't I just go once the other way around, and then I will also have the same number? that makes it a lot cleaner, and well, it's a lot less clutter. So now that we set up most of these, the starting point for our plan, setting our plan, and we can actually disable that. Oh wait, I actually do need this. Now watch what happens if we were to increase the main radius, the wing radius, or decrease it, extend or retract the straight sections, or maybe perhaps even this one. I'm not sure. How does this look with 4? Ooh, and 5. Aha. Ah, okay. So, well, you can use you can design your own sort of tower in this way. The reason why you see this is because we made the temporary move, which remember, let me drag that out into somewhere where you would not want it to. Let's actually let's make it a group so that we know that this part is temporary. Means this not supposed to be there. It's only there to us to visualize. The reason why we see this is because we only said, hey, I want you to move 3 times. So if you were to plug this one in here, well, I guess we can use this into a parameter, but let's not do that for now, since that will make our script quite heavy in the long run. So I'm going to reset all these to the values that they belong to, which are these. Actually, a bit like that, a bit closer. Okay. Now that that's selected, we can see that this is exactly the one we want. This is exactly what we want. But the last one does not look like anything like this. So, I mean, these two are okay, but this one is absolutely wrong. So we need to fix that. And since we've already separated it, it becomes easy for us to select the final one. We might need to merge this together. And then isolate this out and then just modify the green section, because that's the only section that's horrible, that's wrong. The other half is okay, it's what it should be. It's just that if you were to connect them together, if I do this, okay, you know what, let's put it to 0 so we can actually place it in the same direction. What we want is actually, I mean, this part is fine, like I said, but what we want to modify is actually this one here. It should go like this. So that's what we are going to tackle. I think I've been talking for quite a while. This should be a very lengthy video, which what I want to avoid, because long video is oftentimes difficult to follow, in the sense that you need a lot more time to do whatever is on the screen, and then you might lose focus. I think someone else once said to me, you have the utmost focus for about 15 minutes and you have to take a break and then you can continue on. That's the most effective way to learn. At least that's what I also used during my master's university years. So, and this video is, if I look at the time, is way above that 15 minutes. So I'm gonna stop here, and we'll pick this up in the next video where we will adjust our final tower block, setting out plan. And once we have these plans selected, we can continue on from there. So I hope you've learned something until so far, and I'll see you in the next one.